running, her silhouette as a runner.
I'll do the pose.
You're the model.
Yeah.
You're the model for sure. Okay, well, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I'm just so glad that I'm so glad that each of you are here. Mae, especially, thank you for doing this with all you have going on. I know we all know Mae, but I do want to just read just a very brief bio about her, just to kind of set the scene here before we jump in and before I hand it over to you, Mae. Okay. Mae is an author, speaker, and healing coach / mentor, specializing in trauma and grief navigation by partnering alongside women as they process hard things. Out of this time came the Rainy Day Collective podcast, which is awesome, and community of beautifully empowered women. And she is also the facilitator of the Carpe Diem Writers Group, which I want to hear more about. Finding herself a gypsy of sorts, Mae currently resides in a cozy little cottage off the shore of Lake Erie with her college sweetheart and their menagerie of pets, which I absolutely love. Mae's memoir, Girls, Assassins, and Other Bad Ideas, is available everywhere books are sold. Mae, welcome, Mae. So thrilled.
Thank you.
On a personal note, I just want to add to your bio that you are someone who is, we've got a collection of cheerleaders here, but I think of you as like the ultimate cheerleader, the ultimate support of women, especially entrepreneurs, business owners, those of us who are building things out of nothing, those of us who have been through some shit. You empathize, and you have done so much work to give those women the tools to kind of refine themselves and make the most of their life. You were that person to me. So.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. I love women. I love just encouraging women to be themselves, right? Like what else is the point? Like, we are so conditioned and put in boxes and labeled and all the things, and we don't have to be. And I just love connecting women and connecting with women, and it's just the best.
Yeah. All righty. Okay. You take the reins, girl.
Sure.
Tell us.
Yeah. So first of all, I did think about making slides and doing like some fancy thing and an actual proper presentation, but the more I thought about it, and what I wanted to share, it just didn't feel right. I want this to feel like, we're just a group of friends, we're hanging out, we're having some coffee or tea or whatever, and we're just open sharing. I do have notes that I can put like in the group later if that works. Sarah, it really doesn't matter, but I just didn't do the slide presentation thing because
I kind of love that. I mean, you're so good naturally. So
I was like, I just want it to be authentic and less classy, not classy, but class-like, I guess. So before we start, I'm going to ask you to just sensually engage your senses. So I don't know if you brought like a candle or a hand cream, or whatever it is that is a scent. I am doing both because I just want all the smells. But go ahead and just connect with that, like put the hand cream on if that's what you're doing, or light your candle or whatever. And just as you take in that smell and the feel of it, just really think about what feelings towards yourself are coming up. And also, I'll wait for all of our people to be back. All right. Perfect. So as we're just thinking about the feelings, I just want to take a minute to just think about our breathing, maybe place a hand over our heart, close our eyes, and just draw in intentional breaths, thinking again about how we're feeling about ourselves, what these scents bring up as we just kind of come into a place of just deep soul connection. Just think about how we're feeling. And in this setting, I want to ask you to consider what sort of things you're doing to be creative. What sort of things in your life are you doing to ensure that you're resting? And to consider what hard lines have you drawn in your own self-expectations to define your creativity and your rest. So I want to take a couple of minutes before we dive into any exercises to just kind of really talk about that. What creativity and rest look like, what expectations you have. So Sarah, I'm going to ask you, like, what does creativity look like for you?
Creativity for me means a lot of different things, but I think essentially it's allowing myself the mental space to just be myself. Because I think I'm naturally a creative person. And so it's allowing myself the time and the space to just do what feels good. That's what I'm always telling my daughter, like when we're making something, is do what feels good. And that to me is usually being creative.
I love that. It's so hard, right, under this capitalist structure to be creative, because there's always that underlying thought of how will this benefit my time or my money? How will this be equal to productivity, which then negates the whole point of creativity.
Right.
So I love that. Would anybody else like to share how you define creativity in your life?
Selena, did you unmute?
I don't know if I don't really I don't know if I want to share, but I have a lot of questions, like how to like protect or create that, because I think that I struggle with the productivity, like, kind of, if you can like lean, you can clean mindset of maximum time and productivity. And then productivity is kind of a, definer of worth. And I don't think like that works with creativity. And I tend towards more of the, like it's almost like I have to like leave my life and go on a retreat to find creative space. And that's not really helpful, like if it's not integrated. So, yeah, I don't think I have defined it. And maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really normal, honestly. Whenever we encounter people who say, well, I'm just not that creative, that's usually it. It's not that they're not creative, it's that they don't know how to be creative outside of the confines of what we've been trained to do as workers. We're trained to be workers, we're bees, and we're supposed to be busy and diligent. And so, unfortunately, that crosses out, it cancels out our creativity, and it cancels out our genuine rest, not just sleeping, not falling into bed exhausted, but genuine rest, because both of those things are a deep rebellion against capitalism. Being creative and artistic or genuinely engaging in rest is the opposite of what we're taught to do. So it feels very uncomfortable to tackle that. And then if we are the types of people, which most of us are, who balance that inner dialogue of shame and guilt, whew, it is fodder for that, for sure. Like, should you be sitting here staring out the window sipping tea for 3 hours? No, you shouldn't. Look at your house, look at the piles of messes. And we have to, it's learning that. Even I don't even think to balance. I think that part of it is reclaiming our life as people and as humans, and not as worker bees, right? Like reclaiming, and it's hard, but we thrive in creativity and we thrive in rest. And unfortunately, not many of us thrive in working ourselves to death. And that includes just being productive and always striving for productivity, for sure.
Gosh, I love that word, by the way, that you picked for this workshop.
Reclaim.
Reclaim. It's so powerful. Yes. Like there's so much packed into that word itself. Just it's taking a stand against all this shit, and B, like making an actionable, taking action towards being more of yourself. And I think, like you said, I think we're all creative beings. We just don't allow ourselves the time, just like you said. Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, like, not to take it in like a whole like capitalist patriarchal direction, but
it is.
Well, and we watch like younger and younger, they take art programs away from schools, and they add minutes and time that the kids have to be productive. And like, it's a smart system. Like the system works as it's designed. It is creating workers for the workplace when they're adults. And it is a smart system, but it's not good. It's not healthy.
Inhumane, really. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the same vein of defining creativity, how are you defining rest? Like, what lines and boundaries have you drawn in your life to decide this is a restful activity?
That was a great question for me, because it made me realize, like, in black and white terms that, oh, I haven't actually done that lately. I feel like I've been good at that in the past, but I have not done that lately. And when you had us check in with ourselves, I've been feeling very flat, and like I've had an off month for reasons that we talked about before. And coming in here and with the candle and the scents, I'm feeling more like me, just being around all of you and doing this. I love this. But I have not carved out time other than in our community to do those things. And I also haven't, like when it comes to rest, freaking back to the perimenopause fun stuff, that's all wonky right now. Like it's so messed up. So I have not done that. And I'm really glad that you asked that question, because that's going to be really helpful for me from today on. Yeah.
I hope so. Does anyone else feel like they've mastered rest? Like you've just mastered it and you're so rested and
God, what's that like?
LOL. I recently, and I knew about this for a while, but recently really got into it and have been consistently tracking my cycle and trying to figure out what, days and like what the different phases mean. And I finally realized like, these days are like, just don't leave your bed days. And like, that's okay. And, bring your laptop or like do what you need to do, but just don't feel bad about asking for help or resting, or even just for me to reframe like, hey, these are the days where I feel like this, and it's my body telling me that I need to just stop for a minute. And now I anticipate that and like really try to be proactive about letting my family know, and before I would still feel like that, but feel bad that I couldn't get up, fold laundry, but now I don't. So I feel like that's a huge win in my direction. But yeah, I'm also mad that I didn't really figure this out before now, but that's okay.
well, if you had figured it out before now, it may not be as meaningful now as it is, because it
True.
would have just
It
been
feels
like normal.
right. And it feels so, honestly, so good to just claim that, that's what you said, like claim that time for myself, because I need it and I can ask for it and I can use it. And I've also realized like my husband schedules so many things. I should schedule like, why don't I schedule things for me to do? I just don't, I don't know why I don't. And it's like, that's just how it happens.
Retreat. It's all scheduled that retreat.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also really empowering to acknowledge our struggles and to find things that hold space for us to struggle when we need to, because it's the human experience. We're all going to struggle. We're all not going to have it figured out from this day forward forever. Like then we'd be dead. Like that just would be like the end of the game for us. And so I think that there's this misconception that empowering is only existent in the plane of things that make us feel like so alive and energized and like we can take the world over. But empowering is also acknowledging that this app will help me organize my time better on bad days, or this process. Like I last year started following the phases of the moon, and it changed my life. And in doing that, I realized like, okay, there are times when I need like a weaker or a more restful time. And that's okay, because I'm human and sometimes we just don't hold space for our humanity.
Amen to that.
So yeah, so I think that rest and creativity, as I said, are at their purest a rebellion from this capitalist world, which gives us unattainable standards for success. Gives us unattainable standards for success in our appearance, in our health and fitness, education, career, relationships and family, how our time should be spent, tells us what's appropriate, what isn't. We shouldn't sit around and watch TV, yet, we're given 5 billion ways to sit around and watch TV. Like you can't win either way. Like you're always failing something, however you look at it. I think that we see people who are mastering the health and fitness journey, and then we see other people who wish they were, right? But they have like all of these extenuating circumstances that that standard doesn't hold space for. Maybe it's like a chronic illness, or what have you, like a genetic predisposition or something. And it just, all of these things that we are supposed to want to attain, especially as women, there's no way we can do it because there's nothing holding space for real life outside of that. And that's probably the most toxic part of things like social media. It's great because you can connect with people you wouldn't have connected with otherwise, and you can do all of these things, but also it highlights for us these ways that we just don't tend to measure up. And so I would say, sharing personally, like, I have health concerns. I have a chronic illness. And so as much as I would love to be like this fit little thing, doing all of these active, fit little things, I am not going to be that person. And is it expected of me? Absolutely. Do people judge me and hold me to that standard? Absolutely. Do they like to minimize why I can't? Of course they do. But that's all on them, right? That's all on society, and they're dealing with their own stuff. And it's a journey, but we come to that place where maybe our relationships look different, our family system looks different, our education looks different. Like, again, with society, they want us to all have master's degrees, but nobody wants to help us pay for college. So it's unattainable. Like, these lives we see depicted on big screens and in the media, they aren't possible lives for us because there's so many roadblocks and things. So
this is so liberating. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I want to take our notebook or journal, and we're going to travel back in time mentally. It's going to be about 7 minutes. We're going to think about our childhood. We're going to think about all of the, and just list out all of the things that we loved, the things that we loved to do, what our snacks were that we loved, whose hugs were the best, the stories we couldn't fall asleep without hearing every night. Not these questions specifically, but just anything that the sweet child you were comes to mind that you loved. And we're just going to make a list of all of those things. And like I said, it'll be about 7 minutes.
Hey, could you put just those couple ideas in the?
Yeah, I absolutely will.
Thank you.
Okay, we can go ahead and start to wrap that up. So I'll share some things that are on my list. We don't have to read them out loud. This is completely private, but some of my things were, strawberry shortcake dolls, playing the Atari, my grandpa's hugs. My best friend and I would play funerals. We would record them with a tape recorder and make them as like dramatic and ridiculous as possible, even though we had zero
So
experience
fun.
with funerals. So we just imagined, which, then comes to like daydreaming and playing school and imagining all these things, like very much an imagination based childhood I had. So if anybody else wants to share anything that made their list.
I'll share a couple. I had a very play-based childhood. And by the way, this was super fun. I ended up like doing a whopping list of things. And at the top, in sync, Nutty Bars, Gushers, Pac-Man, Quali Yummies, so much candy, recording home videos, Lego cities under my bed, Bite Gang, epic water balloon fights, hide and seek with walkie-talkies, muddying up those Converse, clay making things, tomboy things, hideouts in neighbors' bushes, warm vacations like San Diego beach days, beach volleyball all day and taking breaks at Jamba Juice, hiking, finding trails, pogs, doodling on my school papers for days. I mean, I have like so many more, but that felt good.
I love it. I'm glad it felt good. If anyone doesn't feel great about it, that's okay too. Sometimes tapping into inner child stuff can just cause our anxiety to spike. And if that's true for you, just take a minute on your own to breathe in your scent, whichever one you chose, and just kind of bring yourself back to where you're at, because that's okay. The anxiety part of it is okay too, because it's honest and it's authentic with that part of our journey. Does anybody else want to share anything on their list?
Did anyone else play with pogs?
Yes, I had
Totally.
pogs.
Yeah, and Selena, Audra, thank you.
Yeah, I have to find like all the little, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
Put that down
remember
with like a, oh God, I was really in that. Audra.
I remember making flower crowns, and that's one of my favorite things is the warm sun. And now I'm trying to like recreate that with my kids, but that's one of the things I remember is being outside and taking the clover flower and the dandelions.
I love that. I grew up in New Mexico. We had no flowers.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
We could put a snake or a spider on her head, but
We
not
just
the same.
moved to South Carolina a couple years ago, and in Arizona we didn't have a lot of the clover flower or anything either.
Yeah. But yesterday was Beltane, and I was like, I read this thing that was like, what is the best way to celebrate this? Flower crowns. And I was like, I wish I knew how to do that. And I wish I had like, it was rainy, so there were no flowers, but that's lovely. I love that.
It's really cute.
Yeah, it is cute. So this time for the next exercise will probably take about 5 to 6 minutes, but if you need more time, that's fine. We're gonna, on another page in our notebook, we're gonna make the same list, but it's gonna be things that we love now, things we love to do the most, whether it's like we like to eat things or whatever, not the things we want to be doing. Like I cannot write flower crowns on mine, but the things that we actually love doing, and that we have like in our grasp to do. So we'll take about 6 minutes.
This is fun.
Okay, we'll start to wrap that up. As we wrap that up, I want us to look at both lists and to see if it's more similar or if there's differences. Like how many of these things on our list revolve around creativity, play, or rest. We talked a little bit about this. Selena touched on it a bit about, do we struggle with feeling that creativity, curiosity, naps, or other restful activities are more appropriate for children than they are for adults? Like, is it easier to identify in our child list, oh, this was an appropriate time for this, but it's not appropriate to take a 3-hour nap every day now. Says who? I nap every day, but whatever. Things like asking questions out of sheer curiosity is so rare for adults. It's so rare for us to just be curious about something and verbalize that, because we kind of have lived under this assumption that by the time we reach the age we're at, we're supposed to know stuff. We're supposed to have it figured out. And so then that adds this inner pressure of, well, let's say I'm 40 and I haven't done X, Y, and Z yet. What's my problem? I knew by now I'd have it figured out. Why do I still feel like a 16-year-old inside? Because all of these things are life. Like we're always going to feel 16 and 20 and 25. And it's just how it is. And it's not how we thought it was going to go, because we were taught, or we bought into this idea that there was a formula of this happened and this happened and this happened. And we all know people that have struggled with whatever reason they couldn't find a partner, or, they have infertility issues or whatever. Like things don't work that way. That's just not the formula. We've lost people early. It isn't the way that it goes. And so we have to start finding out, like, how can I be more curious? It's like the number one thing that as adults, we really struggle with, because out of curiosity comes like the freedom to rest and the freedom to explore and the freedom to be creative and to find out who we are and what we are. Because I'm not the same person I was 60 days ago. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. And I'm definitely not going to be the same person in 5 years. And that's okay. But we're not going to find those things or that alignment that we need to be in unless we give ourselves permission to be curious. And it's in that curiosity that we tap into creativity and resting. And again, the deep acts of rebellion that they are against a society that isn't for us, because these things are for us. This rebellion is advocating for self-connection and self-healing and self-health and all of the things. So when our doctors are telling us, you need to do this, it's okay to ask questions. Why do I have to do that? What's the benefit? It's okay to ask other people and resource or whatever. Like, it's okay to be curious. Like, well, I'm supposed to be creative, but I don't really like drawing or painting or whatever. It's okay to be curious and try 50 different things and meet people who are creative and find out about their creative journeys and just ask questions, because that's what helps us connect with other people, which I love. We're always told, trust the system, trust the structure, stay in our lane. All the time, like hustle culture. How are we gonna be a girl boss? How are we gonna like do this? How are we gonna do that? Like it always comes down to the same things. Every time we find a new hobby, there's this voice in our head that's like, how could you make money off of this? Could you sell it on Etsy? Could you do this? Could you do that? Like, it's not our fault. Like, it's very much what we've been taught to do. It's been so ingrained in us, but it's okay for us to just rebel against that. I think that's why true artists who have stayed true artists their whole lives are always seen as like the black sheep and the rebels, because they just never bought into that system. And that's what we want. We want to be the black sheep and the rebels for sure, because with the focus on money or success, which success is always at somebody else's gain. There's always somebody else benefiting from our success if they're ever going to see us as truly successful. With these achievements, we're seeing death to the sense of community, growing health issues, depression, rising crime, etc. These things that we're supposed to value and chase are draining us. They're depleting us of our goodness, our empathy, our kindness, and our true sense of self. And it's overwhelming to sit in one position and think, but how can I get there? And it just comes out of curiosity. just letting ourselves be curious, because then we just find the things that are meant for us. We find the things that bring us to life. The more permission we give ourselves to do one thing, the easier it's going to be to give ourselves permission to do other things. And so that really, I believe, is the easiest way to start, is just curious. What does rest look like for me? Maybe it's a nap for this person, but maybe for me, it's, doodling on a piece of paper and looking out the window. And that's okay. Like, rest can be whatever refills us. Creativity refills us, rest refills us. We're battling and counteracting the depletion of everything else, of the bills in the mail, and just the constant drains on our energy when we're in public, or when we deal with uncomfortable people, or, there's always something wanting to take our energy. And these are the ways that we prioritize and advocate for ourselves and fill it back up. The magic regarding curiosity, creativity, and rest is that each one of these things gives us a natural dopamine hit, while we're also engaging with our senses. With curiosity, by asking questions that exist outside of the conforms that we're expected to believe, we engage stagnant or buried parts of our brain and thoughts. Often curiosity leads to people learning things about their family, a shared history, company, or religion that makes them uncomfortable. And while this sounds terrible, except that once we know, we can't unknow is a fact. And there's an empowerment in learning, oh my God, the history I was taught in school is terrible. That's horrible, but it's empowering, because then we learn, like, okay, what can I do differently? How can I fix that? How can it be better? What is the truth? And the more we learn, the more we ask questions, the better we feel, the stronger we become, and the more connected to other people and empathetic we become. And these are all wins, right? Like, huge wins. Mm-hmm. With creativity, we are engaging our senses in something that doesn't exist yet. There is a tactile feel to the act, along with something visually stimulating. Depending on what the creativity is, there can be engaging of sound, smell, taste. And these are all very healing and cathartic. And through this process, we're rerouting and reprogramming, like, old coping mechanisms that no longer serve us, which is healing. And there's so much science behind creativity, even down to doodling. It can ease stress, boost health. Like, there's so much there that we just aren't taught that exists. And holding expectationless space for ourselves creatively, by simply letting go and creating something, is supercharging for our spirits. It doesn't matter if it can be, we don't want to make money from it. We want it to be better than money, something just really that we've poured ourselves into. And with the rest, we're listening to our body and our mind and checking into what we need. We're letting go of societal expectations to hustle and the guilt that we carry around that. It can be a nap, it can be reading a book, watching the birds, sitting on the beach, daydreaming. It's all supercharging, super healing, stress relieving, health boosting, all in its own way. So I think that it is very overwhelming to be like, how can I be more creative? How can I rest more? How can I do this or that? But I think, like everything else, like training for a marathon, which I've never done, but my husband did, it takes time and it takes intention, and it just takes, like, things that we didn't know we could do. And then all of a sudden we can. So yeah, I do have, like, homework and a daily activity. You wanted that, right, Sarah?
I think it would be cool. And I also just have to say, that was incredible. You just gave us so much, and you just gave us so much. And yes, I would love to see your notes if you could put those in the community afterwards, because that felt like a really awesome sermon in a way. That you just boil it all down. That, like, yes, you were calling out these bigger issues about our societal structures and why we're feeling the ways that we are feeling, like the guilt of not producing more, guilt around rest itself. And you just called all that out with a really, really simple solution, which is just to kind of channel our I was going to say our inner 5-year-old, but our actual 5-year-old sometimes, and just ask why do I feel that way? Why? Okay. Oh, I'm so tired. Maybe I should take a nap. Oh, but I shouldn't do that. Why? Oh, because if I don't do that, then, if I take a nap, then the laundry won't get done. Okay. So why is that a big deal? Well, because it'll pile up, and I don't know if, anyone else is going to do it. Okay. Why not? Well, because they're not expected to. Why aren't they, just drilling it down. It's like, you could do this about anything. And then it's like, Oh, well, just by staying curious and just by asking these questions about these blocks in our, giving us permission to rest and to be creative, like you break those down and it's actually pretty easy. We just don't, it's like, you're right though. We just don't do that. Like we're maybe taught not to, and we're expected to have it all figured out by now. But yeah, guess what? Like everyone's different. Life is different. Things don't go as planned. Mae, you just dropped, like, do you realize what you just dropped on us? Like, is anyone else feeling that? Like, holy shit. Yeah, this is really important. So sorry, I just kind of wanted to.
No. Yeah, no, I'm glad that it's helpful for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. What was so I would love for that to be, I would love for us to do an exercise with all of that in mind. Yeah, let's get curious about our own routines that we've created and our own activities and our own ideas around like what we should or shouldn't do, and have, a concrete takeaway from everything you just gave us. I would love to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to think about, because I do some of this with clients when I start working with them. And so like when you said like a daily practice, the two things that I think are really helpful is one, to designate a totem. So like I've been doing this for so long, I don't even know where I got the idea, but like I have a few here, like I have a piece of petrified wood, I have like a stress stone, or just this little stone thing that somebody gave me that says,
you're an actual totem.
Yeah, like a real life physical tactile totem. Wow. That can fit in a pocket, and carry it with put the intention in it that every time you hold this in your hand, it will ground you and remind you to be curious. Because sometimes we forget, like we do. We've been doing things for so long, certain ways, that we forget. And just putting the intention into something and then grabbing that stone or whatever it is and holding it is just that recentering of, that's right, I can advocate for myself. I'm allowed to be curious. And then the other thing is very similar, daily. So that's like whenever you need it, right? Because it's with you all the time. The other thing for a daily practice is to come back to that scent that we used at the beginning, and to remember that this scent is your permission to pause and to go through the connection with yourself. It can be 60 seconds, it can be 2 hours, whatever you need. Just grab your totem, reconnect with that scent, whatever it is, breathe for a little bit, and just ask, how are rest and creativity present in my day? Just recentering ourselves. We teach our kids to do that, but we tend to only recenter ourselves to get back on track productively. And that's a practice we already know, so we can switch the narrative and change it to, how can I renew my sense of curiosity? And just bring us back into real life affirming activities for our days, instead of producing and producing and producing. And also in the notes, I'll put that like my resources are the Rest is Resistance Manifesto by Tricia Hersey, which is a fantastic book. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, of course. And then Fair Play and Find Your Unicorn Space by Eve Brodsky, which are fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Anastasia, yeah, we've a couple of us have talked about Fair Play and the Unicorn Space.
Yeah, fantastic.
Oh. Mae, this is so good. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for letting me share.
This is amazing. Do you have the rest of your totem? I'm just
I over the years, I've had different things. Right now, I just do like the stress stone. And it's so funny because my husband is huge anxiety, just insanely anxious. And I gave him a stress stone last year, and he's like, I'm not going to do that. And I catch him all the time just sitting there, because it's like a little thumb imprint, and he just is always like doing that. And I'm just like, I've watched his stress levels go down. And I've watched, like, when he starts doing that, I can start to see it on him. And I'm like, it's amazing how well it has grounded him and just helped him center back to himself and realize, like, it's not about the things that I need to do. It's not about the stuff I need to do. It's not about the overwhelm I'm feeling. It's about this, and just that redirection.
Oh God, I love this. This is, I swear this is going to be related, but on just a personal share, I've been sort of mentally toying around with the idea of overshooting everything. Like I've got this index card that says overshoot in really big letters on the top of it because, the idea was that, every year I kind of, we take time to think about what we want the year to be like. We sort of reflect on things. And this year I thought, I want to like use my voice more. I want to speak up more and kind of share how I feel about things and be more proactive. But I've been like, it's really hard for me to do that. And I haven't progressed in ways that I wanted to. And it's not out of like this obligation to be productive. It's just this, like, I know I have it in me to do these things and I just want to make them more of a priority, I guess. And so instead of, I'm taking this like other extreme approach to things. And on my index card, I've got, I used to have an index card above my desk that would say like, just launch it, just launch the thing, and that's still, I wasn't like motivated enough to just launch the thing. I still like think about things and I tinker and I overdo, I like perfect it and all that. And so now I'm like, well, what would be the overshot version of that? And I want to overshoot failing. I have a note, like, I want to be really terrible. I want to launch terrible things. Instead of, I want to try to take up more space. I'm going to overshoot that by like stretching out and being loud and obnoxious. Like, what's the opposite of this stuff? And I'm realizing these are acts of rebellion, right? Instead of not just like tolerating someone else's discomfort, I want to actually expect it. I want to disappoint people. Instead of speaking up more, I want to say too much. I want to say things that I might regret later, which I probably won't, but
yeah,
I want to overshoot it. Instead of playing it safe, I want to play it unsafe. I want to get in trouble and do things I'll regret. Instead of, only practicing gratitude for things I have, I want to have this like abundance mentality, not any sort of scarcity mentality. I want to feel like, God, I'm so rich in fill in the blank, and I feel like, unintentionally, this is so in line with what we've talked about today, Mae. I just feel like what a cool way to frame it as this act of rebellion and just being curious and just, taking a look at why we do things and challenging that. And instead, like, let's just fucking overshoot it, let's just come at this from a totally different angle. And I have to say, this is really new for me, but it's working. Like it's totally working in small ways. Like yesterday, for example, my daughter, we signed her up for soccer. She told me before she did not want to do soccer, but I was like, got to do a team something here. And I want her to be active, like let's try to like set the, healthy lifestyle up. And I was like, soccer was great for me. Like if she doesn't like it after one season, fine, not going to do it again. But she had her second game over the weekend. I'll have to just share the pictures because she's like my inspiration. She not only did not play the entire, like almost the entire game, she overshot it. She stretched out on her back on the sideline and did not watch. I was like, husband, you at least need to cheer your teammates on. Like, you don't have to play, but like cheer your teammates on, or at least watch the game to make sure you don't get hit by the ball. She goes, Mom, I don't even care. And I was like, I love that. Like, part of me was like, this is amazing. And so I took pictures of her and I shared it to my family's group text thread. And I was so sarcastic and I just said, unrelated, Hudson's really loving soccer. And I share these pictures of her like using this chair as a pillow. And I thought that was going to be that. But my family, because I'm the youngest, people start chiming in. They're like, don't worry, Sarah, that's normal. Oh, bribe her with candy. Oh, she'll find her thing. And I'm like, I didn't even allude to like being worried about her finding her. I don't care if she likes soccer. And I would just let that go. But then I see my card and it's like, no, I'm going to say too much here. And I said in the text, I was like, just to clarify, I'm not worried about her. I just thought this was really funny. And like, no one said anything, but but no one said anything. Everyone stopped and they probably got it, you know? And so anyway, that's a really long example of like my daughter being the example of overshooting things, just being so clear and not giving any fucks at all about like what I think, what her coach thinks. Like she is her. And I love that. And yeah, just little ways to overshoot things and really see it as that act of rebellion, because God, it feels good.
I love that too. It's like you think about in the context of this conversation about rest and relaxation, like there is this idea of like disappointing some whatever ideal like picture of a person, particularly, you know, women, like I feel like men's rest is and comfort is so protected. And I even feel like sometimes when I see how people act towards like my husband with the kids, it's like people are uncomfortable with him like having a hard time, versus if I'm with the kids having a hard time, it feels like people are just judging my incompetence. And I'm like, I just need a fucking hand, like, you know? And so like, I think I love the idea of like, yeah, being like Sarah, like being more open to better to disappoint other people than to disappoint yourself. And like a lot of this comes with like exposure therapy, like, and that's what you're talking about doing. Like you're talking about doing the things and then you're like building the neural pathways that will help you continue to do the thing. And so I love the idea of like really like having like the totem, having like the index card, having a reminder to create new like ways of doing things and to touch back to rest and relaxation, especially like if it doesn't come naturally to you.
Yeah. This is huge, Mae. Thank you.
Well, and I think it's really important, Sarah, to remember if there were not women in our history who were willing to overshoot, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't vote. We wouldn't have any rights. We would just still be like considered property. Like women were doing the things that made everyone else uncomfortable because that's what they had to do. And I think that in a lot of ways it's gotten better for women, but in a lot of ways it hasn't. And so it's still what we have to do.
Yet we're seeing that resistance. We're seeing the pushback because it's so uncomfortable for everyone else. Right.
Yep.
Gosh, Mae. Yes. Audra, were you going to say something? I see this.
No, I've been typing. I'm like, I don't give a shit about making people uncomfortable anymore.
Where? Okay, teach us your ways. Have you always been that way?
Like a few years ago, like we're talking about men's comfort, men's rest. My husband would just come home and he would be like, I'm not doing anything else. So I adapted the phrase, fuck that, because when I'm tired, you know, if there's laundry, I'm like, fuck that. If there's something else happening, if a kid's having a meltdown in my house, we're home.
Fuck that.
You're gonna sort yourself out. I'm ready for a hug when you're ready for a hug.
Yeah.
I just, once I learned the phrase, fuck that, I still have a hard time though with people pleasing and something. And then once I get in my head about it, I'm just like, oh.
I gotta make that a sticker or something.
Yeah, but I love the way that you phrase stuff about overshooting, because in the past I find that I have overspoken and it has created a thing, but I need to incorporate more of fuck that with that and just understand that's not, I wasn't unkind about the thing. It's just, I can't help their abrasiveness back.
Right.
And so I love all the phrasing of everything, and it's really bringing some stuff together for me today.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I credit my therapist. I don't see her anymore, but I was seeing her for like regularly for a couple of years. And probably the biggest takeaway from all of our sessions together, she used to tell me, learn to tolerate others' discomfort, to just tolerate it, even for like a couple minutes, because then it passes usually. Maybe you have, like, if it's with your partner, you have, further conversations, but like learn to tolerate other people's discomfort. And because I got really good at tolerating my own and just accepting it and almost expecting it. But then I realized, well, I'm not really making anyone uncomfortable. Like I haven't had practice with this. I haven't had the exposure therapy, like Selena said, like, because I haven't practiced that part of it. So, okay, let's do a little work on that. Like, that's where the overshooting comes into play. It's like, how can I make someone uncomfortable? And usually, to Audra's point, it's not that we're doing anything malicious. We're not mean people. We're really good people. I mean, everyone in this group, we're good people. So the risk is actually very minimal anyway.
Yes.
So I just realized that we're 5 minutes over. So Mae, this was awesome. Do you have anything else that you want to, any other things you want to share with us? Okay.
No.
Not that you need to, because my God, you gave us a lot.
Yeah, no, that's it. Just make your totem, get your sense, and yeah, ask questions.
Okay.
Curious.
I did want to say one thing. I will be posting, it's just the 1-pager printout, the 5 minutes a day for me. This is working, you guys. I started this for after Mary Ann's gathering, and I've just been checking off. You don't have to make notes on it, but it's helped me to like really prioritize just this 5 minutes a day for me to do the totem. It can be 1 minute. It can be an index card. It can be just sit and scroll your phone, do nothing. Like I want to challenge us to go back to the lists that we made of things that we like to do now. Just review what we did today, and make a commitment to yourself, whether you use this or not. If something like this is like, oh, that actually feels like work, ignore it. Don't even touch it. But it has helped me. Like, it's actually been really fun this past month just to be crafty and creative. Like I told Selena, I've become obsessed with making pom-poms, totally unnecessary, but I feel like this new sense of pride in my creations because I've been doing it more. I actually freaking, look at this. I mended, there it is, this pocket on my jeans. Stuff was falling through it and I fixed it. Like, I felt so proud of myself, and I don't think I would have done it honestly without this. So we're going to put I'm going to have a new version of it for this month for everything that Mae gave us today. And I will also add, there's going to be a little QR code that links to the replay. So just the idea is that this is super easy, and it's a way for us to prioritize ourselves even for a couple minutes a day. So look out for that in the card club. This is card club only material. So, okay, so that's it. God, this felt good. Thank you, Mae.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. That was incredible. Please share your notes too, if you're up for it.
I will. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Have an awesome rest of your day. I love you all. So glad that you guys joined. Okay. See you soon. Bye.